leader currently serving as CHRO at Triveni Turbines Limited since February 2022. He brings extensive experience in shaping and implementing comprehensive people strategies that drive organizational growth. Known for his collaborative and people-centric approach, Satyanarayan actively mentors and coaches teams to enhance capabilities and foster professional growth while building robust HR frameworks that enable transformative change. Can we have a huge round of applause for Satyanarayan?
A very good morning, and thank you first of all for giving me this opportunity to share my perspective on this topic. Not an easy topic to discuss and talk about. But what's amazing is we already had two power-packed uh, speakers who actually mentioned what can enable us to be in the space of better engagement, well-being, mentally as well as physically. Before I really go about talking about what I think it is all about, let's catch up in our day-to-day life. What happens? A child is born, and from the day the child is born, the child is fighting for physical well-being, where the parents are trying to help the child to cope up with the challenges of this world, health-wise, physical-wise. By the time the child is 3 years old, the parents are already gearing the child up for playing at the play center, being at the prep, trying to coach the child for swimming, coach the child for cycling. They are also planning which school I should put this child for his music, which school should I put it for learning robotics. Crazy world. By the time the child steps into the school, starts, gets settled, somewhere he or she feels comforted, yes, my physical well-being is taken care of. By the time they are into the high school, the parents are back again. What's next for you? What are you gearing up for? How are you going to get into your 10th and 12th exam results? Because they are extremely critical. That is the gateway for you to get into the biggest of universities. The child is again into a trauma. I may be sounding exaggerated, but that's reality for each one of us. It's not something which is keeping the child only physically well-being, but the emotional well-being is under question now. The moment the child moves, gets into that success path, clears the 10th and the 12th milestone, the next thing which calls for the child is to seek that entrance test for the graduation. It's done, good. There's a celebration at home. The child is still caught unaware, what's next for me? I don't know. The child is still trying to balance between the physical and the emotional way. And there's already a small line which is coming to him in the fount of whisper. If you don't get through the big universities, then we have to shell out big money to get into an ordinary university. We don't have the finance to fund you. That's a financial stress for the child. How am I going to pay it back? Life moves on. The child gets into university, gets a good score. Yeah, that's not good enough. You need to get into a good company. A company which pays you well, good ecosystem, nice weekends, maybe good breaks, perfect career move, etc., etc. Comes the financial thing and life begins. And from there on, the only thing the child who has now turned into a man or a woman, whatever you can, gender neutral, is chasing one thing in life. You know what is that? How am I going to pay my EMIs? Believe me, I'm not exaggerating any bit of it. This is something that I get to know when I have talked to people around at different age groups, what they have gone through over the last so many years from the time that they have been in the childhood till where they are today. So when I'm looking at it, this is how it gets projected when it starts off life for the child. And the moment they grow up, this is where they end. And by the time that they have said, okay, physically I'm taken care of, emotionally I think I'm not so bad, financially I'm able to still manage myself, Comes the next challenge, the social well-being. He doesn't know where to go, whom to get accepted, who's going to value, who's trying to find that he belongs to somewhere. Believe me, this is a big struggle for this person who was at one point in time a free bird. And this is exactly where it comes. How are we going to tackle this zone? That's what is in our hands as organizations. Just look back where we have been all these years. All these years, well-being has a very simple thing to look at it. I'm going to possibly rush through the slides because not that something that you don't know that I'm going to talk about. We have been quite clear about doing the fundamentals right, doing the basics right. At the same time, they are more of welfare. Sometimes the welfare can convert into a farewell, believe me. And we have to be very mindful about where we are and what we are doing into. But the bigger question is it really long term? Is it sustainable? Is it creative? Is it outcome based? Answer is no. These are only the flyers. These are only the teasers. This is not going to help the employee to feel engaged, valued, respected, because the employee is looking much beyond just the financial status. So, are we doing enough? My perspective is we can do more, we can do better, we can do bigger. So what is that we can do better and bigger? That's where it stands. On one side we have intensified performance requirements. We are talking about the stress and burnout. We are talking about the boundaries which are blurred. I'm not sure where is my boundary starting and where is it ending. If you really see the other side of the world, we are talking about productivity. We are talking about retaining people. Now I need to crush you to get your productivity, but at the same time I need to retain you, but I have a budget of only 8% to give you. Believe me, where does it go? Where does it stand? Neither it helps the organization nor it helps the employee. There are very serious implications from a strategic standpoint. Today, we are going through a lot of challenges which are contemporary in nature. And most importantly, the bottom line which the CFOs are looking at, glaring at every day, every moment, along with the owners, is taking the big attention. What I also tried to research and we came out as almost those people who are focused on an integrated well-being have been able to enhance the productivity of their people, performance of the people, not less than 20%. And this is not my statement, this is what the researchers said. So if you need, where did I research from? I can give you the insights, but that's where it stands. Now, if this is where we are, what we do, we need to move from a standalone, siloed approach to an integrated approach, because that's what will give us the way in terms of making it sustainable. It is not about making a start, it's about sustaining, it is about creating that value, creating value for the employee, enabling the employee to create value for the organization. It is mutual. Unless and until we don't create an employee for the value, it's unfair for us to expect the employee creating value for the organization. And what I could always see at the end of the table, this is not just about the initiatives, what I do. It's about the outcomes. It's to do with, are these integrated? How are they coming into the entire ecosystem for the employee to experience? If I have to just take a bit of a view, I'm just leaving 2 seconds on the screen to each one of us to reflect. I mean, most of us are doing it in one or the other form. What's key is, are they integrated? Are they in sync with the expectations of the employee? Are they linked to business outcomes? If they aren't, they are simply welfare measures. They are only good to have, nice to have. It doesn't attract the attention of the employee. It doesn't have any focus from the leaders in the organization. So it is still just a matter of you to have this in your table. Whether you want to use it or not, we leave it to you. It doesn't help anyone. What does it mean for us? There is a role, each one of us as leader, and that role for us as leaders is to do with building that culture, because eventually the culture is something which will drive participation from the employees. If we as leaders try to take a back seat, try to ignore, try to overlook, somewhere this would not see the light of the day, leave aside being effective and being outcome driven. Because the employee is already confused from the time that he or she was born in this world. And then there's this manager who has got a grim face. It doesn't really help. So each one of us as leader has a pivotal role to play, because that will encourage the employee to come forward and make his participation more meaningful. Having said it, HR has got an extremely important role here. There are strategic implications, as I said right in the beginning, right? So some of those implications vary depending upon where you are in the organization, what is that is going on in your organization, how do you want to sum it up. This is just a perspective I'm giving. I'm not saying that this is the right method and the only absolute method to look at it. While we look at these implications which are strategic in nature, there are surely certain things we need to look at it. When we interview people, they talk about, sir, I don't have a work-life balance in my organization, hence I want to change over. We also say, this guy is looking at a 9-to-5 job. No, sorry, that's not what he or she is looking at. We need to double click and understand what work-life balance is, and then try to see how do we really build that foundation. And the foundation is not for creating a work-life balance program. The foundation is to create a sustainable productivity, a sustainable performance from that employee. That should be the approach, that needs to be the thought process from a leadership standpoint. And the moment we are in that mode, the first thing what we look at it in terms of the flexi work arrangements, don't give it as a flexibility. You can come, flexi timing 10 to 4 is necessary, other times you are flexible, you got a hybrid work environment. That doesn't really interest. It is momentary, it is temporary, it doesn't really help the employee. You can check it out. Then comes the next stop, clear boundaries. But besides these two, because these two are more in terms of the physical and the emotional part of it, but most important is the last one, what talks about autonomy and trust. Every time we tell an employee, okay, you are done with the presentation, before you send it out, just make sure that you send it to me for one final check. And we say, I give autonomy to my employees. Before you do that, just check with me once. Where is the autonomy? Where is the trust? Unless and until we don't create that ecosystem which is getting much beyond the emotional and the physical in terms of the social environment that the employee is, the employee will struggle big time in terms of balancing his well-being. It is not about only the physical well-being, it's not about the emotional well-being, it is equally the social well-being. When you are trusting, you are saying, hey, you are one of me. I trust you. You are me. I completely count on you that whatever you do, I stand with you. Give that autonomy. Show that trust. The moment I am doing it, I am actually transitioning from just being the financial well-being aspect of insurance coverage and employee assistance program and the health checkups to giving him enough space to breathe easy. And lies from this foundation certain things which always comes at barriers, because where there are opportunities, don't be surprised if you have challenges. So there are certain barriers. These are some of the barriers that we can talk about. You can talk about low engagement levels, you can talk about communication gaps, you can talk about resource constraints. The first thing comes, we don't have budget. The next thing comes, yeah, budget is there, but where is the time for us? He can do it after the work hours. The employee doesn't feel engaged because the communication gap from what was said and what actually was meant, there's a huge gap in the way the employee has interpreted, the way it was intended, and actually the action which is coming from that employee. This is exactly where each of us as a leader has a pivotal role to play, to help that employee to overcome this barrier. And this barrier sets out few of the things. Help that employee to manage the time. Rather than creating boundaries, remove the blurring boundaries. That's what I meant. Help us walking the talk. Let us show if we can do it, they can do it as well. We need to go a step beyond. Recognize what they are doing. Give them a feedback. When I say feedback, believe me, most of us think feedback is negative or feedback is positive. Feedback is a feedback. When I stand in front of a mirror, the mirror tells me who I am. It doesn't tell me whether I am looking good or I am looking terrible. It's how I interpret it. But make it specific. That's something which will actually go a long way in terms of telling us who are we as leaders. And when leaders go about prioritizing this, at least I tried a bit, and I could say that yes, I have been successful. When leaders try this, own this aspect of well-being, it goes miles in terms of enabling the employee to do be better in terms of engagement, in terms of performance, in terms of productivity. You don't need to really worry about retention. We do a lot of programs for retention. Do this. I'm sure we would be at a better space. This is what data says. I have absolutely no contribution to this data except doing some research from some of those places. I have nothing to say. This is what the research says. Whether you go and pick up any of those places and find it out. And all of us sitting here are more wise and intelligent enough to do it. They don't need me to stand and tell you what it is. Now, if this is what the results say, can we look at insights? Because we talk about industry practice, best practice. We look at, okay, I am from an engineering company. Let me see what other engineering companies are doing. Need not be. I may go exactly the opposite, walk into a startup which is into a service platform and try to see how they are looking at it. Somebody in a fintech can go into a chemical and ask how they are doing it. Someone with a pharma can go into and check with an automobile company how they're doing it. That's what is important, because it is not about technology, it is not about customer, it's about people. And when it comes to people, people are emotional. They're looking at physical well-being, they're looking at financial well-being, they're looking at social well-being. The broad contour of everything that we are talking about, bottom line, help employee to create a purpose for himself or herself. If you're able to do that, believe me, you win that employee forever. Those people who have stayed with organizations for long, not because they were paid well, not because they were taken care of everywhere financially and physically only. They have been enabled by the leaders in those companies to see a purpose for themselves. And that's the bigger picture that we as leaders need to look at it. Where we can start at 3 levels, at an individual level. Maybe they need some counseling. They are really undergoing some trauma, they are going some stress. A lot of places where the employee feels comfortable, he or she can trust you, he or she can feel it happy, comfortable to share with you what he or she is going through. Do it in an integrated way, in a team. And certain things, as an organization, we can look at doing it. Choice is ours. Opening a gym in your office is not enough. And taking, how many people are using the gym. Again, I would say, okay, I have invested so many lakhs and so many people, so per employee, this is the cost for gym. Don't get into mathematics like an accounting. No, don't do that. If you're doing that, believe me, you're going to only create problems for you. The bottom line will look red and deeper red. The point here is, can I have a healthy bottom line? The point is not here to talk about how much I'm spending. And if you're going to do this, some of these things I would probably propose here. I'm not saying this is a recommendation, no. We need to look at clearly how am I going to integrate it in a holistic manner, because if I don't do that in a holistic manner, it is still spread all over, it doesn't make sense. I need to make sure that I stand committed to what I'm talking about, what I'm telling my people, what I'm introducing, what I'm asking others to follow. Lead with commitment. Unless I don't do that, it's just another flavor that the organization is trying to get me in. That the employee doesn't feel, convinced at all. And the last part, what you can see is, you need to decide what you want to measure and what you want to optimize. Don't measure the cost, measure the outcomes. And if you do that, believe me, they will come with innovation that can help that sustainability. In my opinion, if I really look back the way it has been in the last few years, at least after the pandemic, because that's the time that we started focusing much more in terms of the well-being, this is what it looks out. That when we look at well-being as a strategic driver or a strategic lever, it actually enables us to sustain productivity and growth. That's how we look at it in terms of the three aspects that is out here as a well-being, in terms of what it brings in terms of sustainable productivity, and of course, that is backed by a healthy ecosystem. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much for the wonderful session. Now, to felicitate Satyanarayan, I'd like to call upon stage Girish Rauje, co-founder and CEO of Great HR. Can we have a huge round of applause, please?